In the heart of Africa, where the highlands of Ethiopia touch the clouds, lies a mystery older than empires and a faith that has guarded secrets the rest of the world forgot. The Ethiopian Bible is unlike any other scripture on earth. Within its pages are books banned and lost to the West, sacred writings like the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees that speak of angels walking among humans, not as distant celestial beings, but as living presences shaping the fate of nations. For centuries, Western Christianity portrayed angels as perfect beings locked behind heaven's gates, messengers of light painted on church ceilings and wrapped in the colors of the Renaissance. But what if the truth was far older and far closer? What if angels never left the earth? High in the mountains of Ethiopia, monks still whisper stories of the Watchers, angels who descended long ago, who taught humanity forbidden knowledge, and who still, according to ancient belief, walk unseen among us. Their footsteps echo in monasteries carved from volcanic rock, in manuscripts written in gaze, the sacred tongue of a forgotten world. In this video, we uncover the hidden tradition that dares to challenge everything we think we know about heaven and earth. From the lost chapters of the Book of Enoch to the living faith of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, we'll trace how Ethiopia became a sanctuary of divine mystery, a land where the veil between realms has never fully closed. Stay until the end, because the truth behind Ethiopia's angelic tradition is more astonishing than legend. You'll see how faith, history, and mystery intertwine, and why for Ethiopians, the unseen world is not a story from the past, but a living reality. If this kind of hidden history speaks to you, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and join us as we journey through time, scripture, and the forgotten pages of the Ethiopian Bible, where angels may still walk among men. Before cathedrals painted with golden wings and choirs of glowing beings, angels were something far older and far less tame. Long before the West imagined angels as shining figures robed in white, ancient civilizations already whispered of messengers between heaven and earth. In Mesopotamia, they were the Apkallu, divine sages who brought knowledge to humankind. In Persia, they became the Ameshaspentas, radiant guardians who stood beside the Creator. The Hebrew prophets would later call them Malakim, those who are sent. Across cultures, the pattern was the same: beings of light who walked among mortals, bridging the worlds of spirit and flesh. But over time, this raw, unsettling vision of angels changed. When Christianity took root in the Roman Empire, theology and art reshaped them into symbols of purity and order. Painters of the Renaissance gave them wings of light. Philosophers turned them into abstract ranks, seraphim, cherubim, thrones. The mystery was domesticated. Angels became safe, distant, and decorative. Yet deep in Africa, beyond the reach of Rome, another tradition kept the older fire alive. In Ethiopia, the belief in celestial beings never drifted into abstraction. Theirs was not an idea, but an experience, a conviction that the divine could still touch the world and that heaven might be closer than we think. This difference would prove crucial. While Western Christianity preserved doctrine, Ethiopia preserved encounter. Its faith developed in isolation, away from the councils and empires that trimmed the edges of theology. In that seclusion, a spiritual memory survived, one that saw angels not as symbols, but as neighbors. The people of Ethiopia didn't just read about angels, they expected them.
Every mountain and monastery, every pilgrim road and valley of mist was seen as a threshold between the visible and the invisible. It's in this landscape that the story of the Ethiopian Bible begins, a collection unlike any other in the world, preserving books that the rest of Christianity had forgotten. And among those lost books, one stands apart, a text so ancient and so daring that it redefined what it means to believe in angels, the Book of Enoch. In the next chapter, we'll journey into Ethiopia itself, a land where history and heaven meet, and uncover how its ancient faith survived untouched, guarding secrets that could change how we see both angels and ourselves.
High in the Horn of Africa, where clouds kiss mountains carved from fire, stands a kingdom that refused to let heaven's secrets die. Ethiopia is not just a country, it is a living museum of faith. While the Roman Empire spread Christianity through conquest, Ethiopia found it through revelation. According to ancient chronicles, in the 4th century, King Izana of Aksum looked up to the sky, saw a cross of light, and declared Christianity the state religion centuries before Europe would do the same. From that moment, Ethiopia's story diverged from the rest of the Christian world. Cut off from Rome by deserts and empires, the Ethiopian Church grew in sacred isolation. It spoke not Latin, but Ge'ez, the language of angels, a script that flowed like river water and echoed the rhythms of ancient Semitic prayers. Without external control, it preserved a form of Christianity unbroken since the earliest centuries, raw, mystical, and steeped in the supernatural. Over time, the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church became the guardian of forgotten scripture. While Western councils debated which books to include in their Bible, Ethiopian monks quietly copied every text they believed inspired by God. The result was a canon unlike any other, more than 80 books, some found nowhere else on earth. Among them were the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and countless hagiographies, revelations, and mystical writings. These manuscripts were not stored in palaces, but hidden in rock-hewn monasteries perched on cliffs or buried in mountain caves. Monks risked their lives to protect them from invaders and time itself. And within those faded pages, written in brown ink on goatskin, lay a claim so astonishing that few outside Ethiopia ever heard it: angels still walk the earth. To the monks, this was not a metaphor. It was the backbone of their faith. Every dawn chant, every candle flickering before an icon was a reminder that the veil between heaven and earth was thin, sometimes invisible. In their hymns, angels are not distant guardians. They are companions, present in prayer, in storms, in dreams. Ethiopian spirituality does not separate the divine from the human world. Its theology teaches telehedo, being made one, the unity of the seen and unseen. In this way, belief in living angels fits perfectly. If heaven and earth are joined, then angels must still be among us, guiding, protecting, and sometimes testing those who meet them unawares. When Western explorers first reached these highlands in the 19th century, they were stunned to find a Christianity that looked ancient yet alive. They saw murals of winged figures, but also heard stories of villagers who claimed to have met strangers glowing faintly with light, or voices that warned of danger before storms. The Europeans called them legends. The Ethiopians called them memories. It's in this setting, a crossroads of mountains, manuscripts, and miracles, that one text would rise above all others: the Book of Enoch. Lost to the West, preserved only in Ge'ez, it became the cornerstone of Ethiopia's angelic worldview. Next, we'll open that forbidden book itself, a text once branded heresy, now seen as the missing key to understanding the angels who walk among us, the Book of Enoch, and the fallen watchers.
Banned in the West, preserved only in Ethiopia, a book that dares to say, angels once lived among us. Of all the sacred writings in the Ethiopian Bible, none are as mysterious or as revolutionary as the Book of Enoch. To most of the Christian world, this text disappeared nearly 2,000 years ago. For centuries, it was known only by rumor, a lost book quoted by the apostles but absent from the Bible. Yet in the highlands of Ethiopia, it was never lost. It was copied, sung, and studied as divine truth. The Book of Enoch tells a story that begins before the flood, before even Noah's time, when angels, known as the Watchers, looked down from heaven and saw the daughters of men. They descended to earth, bound by oath to live among humanity. They taught forbidden arts, the crafting of weapons, the making of jewelry, the secrets of the stars, and the roots of medicine. Their leader, Samyaza, sought to uplift mankind, but in doing so, they crossed the line between heaven and earth. From their union came the Nephilim, giants, part angel and part human, who filled the earth with violence. It is one of the most haunting tales in all of ancient scripture. In Enoch's visions, these hybrids are destroyed by divine decree, but their spirits linger, restless, influencing the world from the shadows. In the West, church councils deemed this dangerous. The story blurred the boundary between the mortal and the divine. Angels were meant to be messengers, not fathers of giants. So the Book of Enoch was buried, dismissed as myth. But in Ethiopia, the book remained, not as fantasy, but as revelation. To Ethiopian theologians, the Watcher's fall was not merely a tale of punishment, but a warning about power, pride, and the unseen forces that shape humanity. It taught that angels are not abstract ideas, but living beings capable of choice, and that their influence, whether for good or for ruin, still touches the earth. When you read the Ethiopian version of Enoch, the tone is strikingly different. It doesn't just describe what angels did long ago. It implies that they still act, unseen, guiding the faithful or tempting the proud. Heaven is not far away in this worldview. It is layered over the human world like a veil of light. In monasteries across Lalibela and Debre Libanos, monks interpret Enoch's visions not as distant myths, but as living truth. To them, the Watcher's fall explains why the world feels both blessed and haunted, why humanity senses presences it cannot see. In candlelit chambers, they chant Gez verses that speak of the Watcher's return and the constant movement between heaven and earth. This interpretation changed Ethiopian spirituality forever. Angels were not remote guardians above the clouds. They were active presences, walking the same paths as shepherds, kings, and wanderers. The Book of Enoch became not only scripture, but a lens through which all creation was seen. And so, while Europe forgot, Ethiopia remembered, and in doing so, preserved a vision of the world where the divine is never absent. But what if the angels didn't just act in ancient times? What if they still appear, hidden among the living, testing kindness and revealing themselves to those who believe? That is exactly what the monks of Ethiopia claim, and their stories form the heart of the next chapter, Angels Among Men.
In Ethiopia, angels don't just descend in visions, they knock on your door. Across the rugged highlands of Ethiopia, faith is not confined to stone walls or scripture. It breathes through mountains, rivers, and the faces of strangers. For centuries, monks and villagers have spoken of encounters with beings who appear human, a weary traveler, a silent beggar, a cloaked hermit, yet leave behind traces of light, healing, or prophecy.
These are not legends to them, they are angels in disguise. The idea comes directly from both scripture and experience. The New Testament's Book of Hebrews warns, "Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so some have entertained angels unawares." In Ethiopia, this verse is not symbolic, it is a way of life. To offer food to the poor, to shelter the wanderer, to greet the unknown with kindness, these are not merely acts of virtue, but sacred tests. Every encounter could be divine. In monasteries like Debre Libanos, Dabra Leanos, and Lalibela, ancient manuscripts recount stories of monks meeting mysterious visitors who vanish as suddenly as they arrive. One tale tells of a monk who gave his last loaf of bread to a stranger shivering outside his cave. The next morning, the monk found a golden cross where the man had slept and a scent of frankincense in the air. Another story describes a beggar asking for water near Lake Tana. When the villagers returned with a jug, he was gone, leaving behind only footprints that glowed faintly in the dust. To Western scholars, such accounts seem poetic, but to Ethiopians, they are testimony. In the Synaxarium, the vast Ethiopian collection of saints' lives, there are dozens of stories of angelic encounters. Angels guiding pilgrims through the desert, healing the sick, or intervening when enemies approach. The Miracles of Mary, one of Ethiopia's most beloved texts, even tells of angels dispatched by the Virgin herself to protect the faithful. These stories serve more than spiritual inspiration. They shape the very fabric of Ethiopian life. In villages where strangers are welcomed with coffee and bread, the act of hospitality carries an unspoken awareness. What if this guest is not human? This belief transforms compassion into reverence. Every face could hide a messenger of heaven. Such a worldview blurs the boundary between myth and morality. The angel is not an abstract being of theology, but the embodiment of divine nearness, a reminder that holiness hides in humility. Ethiopian monks teach that to mistreat a stranger is to strike the face of an angel, a sin that echoes through eternity. Modern visitors to these monasteries often speak of a sense of presence, as though the air itself hums with unseen life. During night vigils, monks claim to see flickering lights dancing between the trees or hovering over the church roofs. To them, these are not candles or illusions, but the watchfires of angels. This living belief gives Ethiopian Christianity a quality rarely found elsewhere, a spirituality that refuses to separate heaven from earth. Where Western theology sees distance, Ethiopia sees intimacy. Angels walk among farmers and kings alike, not in the past, but now. And if angels still move among men, then where do they dwell? The next chapter takes us beyond monasteries and into the wild landscapes of Ethiopia, sacred mountains, lakes, and valleys said to glow under the guardianship of angels. The sacred landscape where heaven touches earth.
Some mountains in Ethiopia are said to glow at night because angels keep watch there. To understand Ethiopian faith, you must first see its land. The highlands rise like fortresses of stone, carved by wind and time into spires that touch the heavens. Mist curls around the peaks each dawn, and villagers still say that what looks like cloud light are the wings of angels moving through the valleys. In Ethiopia, faith is geographical. The divine is not confined to temples. It is rooted in mountains, waters, and wind. Ancient texts like the Book of Jubilees describe angels assigned to guard places and nations, spirits of the elements, watching over creation so that divine order is not lost. For Ethiopians, this teaching never faded. Every sacred mountain is a living altar, every lake a mirror of heaven. One of the most revered sites is Abun Yosef Mountain, a vast plateau overlooking the town of Lalibela. Monks there tell of mysterious lights appearing in the ravines at night, flickers that move too slowly for torches and too steadily for fireflies. Pilgrims call them the lamps of angels. When the winds grow still and the stars shimmer above, the silence feels inhabited, as if unseen beings stand guard. Not far away lies Lake Tana, source of the Blue Nile. Its waters are said to be protected by angelic hosts. Fishermen crossing at dawn whisper short prayers before launching their reed boats, asking for safe passage through the realm of Michael. At certain monasteries built on islands within the lake, monks claim to hear singing in the mist, voices that come and go with the wind, too harmonious to be human. Then there is Lalibela, a city that defies belief. In the 12th century, its emperor dreamed of building a new Jerusalem carved from living rock. What stands today are 11 cathedrals hewn from a single mountain. Tunnels, pillars, and windows, all sculpted downward into the stone itself. Legend says the secret of this miracle is simple. Men labored by day, but angels continued the work by night. Even European visitors of the 16th century recorded what Ethiopians insisted, that angelic hands helped raise the churches faster than any human could. For believers, these monuments are not ruins of history, but proof of divine participation in human craftsmanship. When you stand within those red stone corridors, with sunlight spilling through cross-shaped windows, you can feel the presence of something not entirely of this world. To this day, pilgrims climb these mountains barefoot, chanting hymns that have echoed since antiquity. At night, they light candles along cliff paths, the flames swaying like constellations on earth. "The angels walk with us," one monk said. "They never left." For Ethiopians, geography and theology are inseparable. Mountains are not obstacles but ladders. Lakes are mirrors where heaven glances at itself. To walk the land is to walk through layers of eternity. This sacred geography reminds them that creation is not empty space. It is inhabited, watched, and blessed. But the belief in living angels did not remain confined to mountains and monasteries. When war came to Ethiopia and foreign armies marched upon its soil, the people claimed that heaven itself rose to defend them. Next, we'll uncover those extraordinary stories, Angels in Battle, the modern miracles of Ethiopia.
When war came to Ethiopia, the people said angels marched beside them. In the early 20th century, Ethiopia faced one of its darkest hours. In 1935, Mussolini's Italy launched a brutal invasion, bringing tanks, planes, and poison gas against a nation armed mostly with faith and courage. The world watched in silence. But within Ethiopia, another story began to circulate, one that blurred the line between legend and witness, that angels had joined the fight. According to accounts preserved by priests, soldiers, and villagers, strange phenomena occurred on battlefields across the highlands. Italian pilots reported their bombs veering off course, swallowed by sudden fogs. Columns of troops swore they saw radiant figures standing in their path, silhouettes of light that blinded them before fading into the mist. Ethiopian fighters described feeling invisible shields around them, hearing voices urging them onward when all seemed lost. At the Battle of Adwa decades earlier, the first great Ethiopian victory over colonial forces, similar stories had emerged.
witnesses spoke of white-clothed warriors appearing at the front lines, striking terror into enemies. During the Italian invasion, such tales returned with greater power. To the faithful, these were not hallucinations born of fear. They were confirmation of an ancient covenant, that angels still defended Ethiopia as they had in Scripture. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church responded by reviving centuries-old prayers to Saint Michael the Archangel, protector of the nation. Icons of Michael, sword raised and wings aflame, were carried into battle. Soldiers kissed the images before marching, believing that divine hosts would fight beside them. Foreign missionaries recorded the same stories with astonishment. Some wrote of soldiers claiming that after nights of prayer, mysterious lights appeared over their camps, moving slowly across the sky, vanishing as dawn broke. Others spoke of sudden mists that shielded Ethiopian troops but disoriented their enemies. For Ethiopians, these were not coincidences. They were proof that the old belief still held. Angels do not belong to the past, they act when history demands it. Even after the war, survivors continued to testify. An elderly priest from Gondar told historians, "The angels are guardians of this land. When evil rises, they rise with us." To this day, villagers still tell stories of the Shining Ones who stood between them and destruction. What makes these accounts so striking is not whether they can be proven, but what they reveal about the Ethiopian soul. For centuries, belief in living angels has given the people a sense of divine partnership, that heaven is not a spectator, but a participant in human struggle. This conviction turns despair into courage. It transforms history into testimony. In Ethiopia, the story of angels in battle is not just patriotic folklore, it is theology in motion. The same angels that guided Enoch, the same messengers that built Lalibela, are believed to stand guard when faith is tested by fire. But even after the guns fell silent, one question remained. If angels can appear in war and peace alike, what does that say about the world we live in today? In our final chapter, we return to the heart of the mystery, the place where heaven and earth meet. Next, the boundary between heaven and earth.
What if heaven is not far away, but just one breath apart? As the stories fade into silence, one truth lingers. Ethiopia never stopped believing. From the scrolls of Enoch to the chants of modern monks, from the mountains of Lalibela to the battlefields of Adwa, this land has guarded a vision the rest of the world forgot, that angels are not memories of the past, but presences of the present. In the Western imagination, angels often live behind stained glass, frozen in art, distant in theology. But in Ethiopia, they walk the dust roads. They stand beside farmers tilling the soil. They whisper through the wind at dawn. Here, heaven is not an unreachable realm above. It overlaps the earth like light over water. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church calls this mystery Tewahedo, to be made one. It is the belief that the divine and the human, the visible and invisible, are inseparable. The entire cosmos from mountain to man is woven together by unseen threads of grace. And within that web, angels move constantly, unseen but near, silent but real. When you stand on the cliffs of Abu Yosef and watch the sunrise paint the valleys gold, it is easy to understand why Ethiopians see this world as alive with presence. Every breeze feels inhabited, every shadow purposeful. To them, the distance between heaven and earth is not measured in miles, but in faith. Monks often describe the spiritual life as walking between two worlds, One step is on earth, where we labor, doubt, and suffer. The other is already in heaven, where we trust, hope, and love. The border between them is thin, and sometimes, if the heart is still enough, it disappears altogether. Modern scholars might explain Ethiopia's angelic tradition as cultural resilience, the survival of ancient symbolism in a living religion. But to those who live it, no explanation is needed. When a sick child recovers after prayer, when a traveler is spared from a sudden landslide, when a stranger arrives with help at the perfect moment. These are not coincidences. They are reminders that the unseen world still breathes alongside ours. And perhaps that is the real message of the Ethiopian Bible. Not simply that angels exist, but that they invite us to see the sacred hidden within the ordinary. The beggar on the road, the whisper in prayer, the unexpected kindness of a stranger. All may be the language of heaven speaking through human hands. As the video draws to a close, remember this: faith, whether ancient or modern, is not about believing in something far away. It is about recognizing the nearness of what has always been with us. Because maybe, just maybe, the boundary between heaven and earth has never been a wall, but a door. And for those who still believe, that door is always open. If this story opened your eyes, share it with someone who loves mystery and history. Tell us in the comments what you believe about angels. Have you ever felt protected, guided, or inspired in ways you can't explain? And don't forget to subscribe, because next time we'll open another forgotten chapter of the Ethiopian Bible, where the unseen world speaks again.